Greetings and welcome to the parallel session in HSS 4, Theme 2, Topic 4, Expanding Enrollment and Retention with Empowered Learners. This is our topic today. I am Syed Aslam, Associate Professor in Mechanical Engineering Department from Lord's Institute of Engineering and Technology, Hyderabad, Telangana State, India, and your session chair today. Each speaker will have approximately 15 minutes for his or her presentation and 5 minutes for question answer. If any speaker should face technical difficulties and could not present, then I will move to the next speaker in line and come back to the original speaker at the end. I will alert the speaker at 5 minutes and 1 minute remaining time of their 15 minutes window. Exactly after 20 minutes, the next speaker will begin presenting. Okay, so first speaker, today's speaker is Professor Marilee Bresciani Ludwig. Her topic, leveraging malleable intrapersonal competencies. Marilee Bresciani Ludwig, PhD, serves as chair and professor of the Educational Leadership and Policy Studies Department at the Universities of Texas, Arlington. Prior to that, she served as professor of post-secondary educational leadership at Santiago State University, assistant vice president of institutional assessment at Texas A&M University, and in a variety of student affairs, academic affairs, and alumni relations leadership roles at various types of institutions. Marilee has written 13 books, published over 200 articles, and empowered over 200 institutions and their leaders. Dr. Bresciani Ludwig's work has been honored with awards as the ACPA College Student Educators International Contribution to Knowledge Award 2022. She has also recently been inducted into the University of Texas, Arlington National Academy of Inventors. Now, I invite Professor Marilee Bresciani Ludwig for her presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so kindly. It's an honor to be here, and I have the privilege of representing a very large team in our research, and this is an intra-institutional team, University of Texas Arlington, University of Texas Health Science Center at Houston, and San Diego State University in California, all in the United States. So again, it's an honor to be here, and I'm representing the work primarily of my colleagues Shiming Zhang, Mitch Strawman, Nasima Subadi, Sandra Khan, Stephen Schellenberg, and myself. And our research began with exploring what is happening with students prior to the COVID pandemic and during the COVID pandemic, and now we're researching living in the COVID pandemic. But what we discovered is that when we focus on first-time in college students, research has showed that they're not necessarily prepared to deal with the kinds of pressures of being a first-time in college student while also navigating the COVID-19 pandemic. And prior to that, what we found and we're exploring as a team is that there's this set of intrapersonal competencies or fluid intelligence or executive functions that really do significantly impact academic success of first-year students. So our question really was, how do we cultivate these, or can we cultivate them in the first year? And the theoretical underpinning of this came from the Student Learning Imperative that was first published in 1996 and again in 2008. It tells us that students' learning and development are inextricably intertwined. And we know this from neuroplasticity. So this is my brain, in case you're wondering whether I have one. And this is how we study what changes structurally and functionally when students are asked to participate in particular learning tasks. So what neuroplasticity tells us is that what we focus on repeatedly over a certain amount of time and duration will change certain structures and therefore functions of our brain. So what we pay attention to intentionally, repeatedly, over a certain length of time will change certain structures and therefore functions of our brain. The way that we design this as educators is we often take these neurocognitive skills and we drop them into two buckets. One might be, again, this interpersonal competency bucket, fluid intelligence, executive functions, and I'll explain that a little bit more in a moment. And also crystallized intelligence. These are the facts. These are often on our standardized tests or end of term or end of year quizzes. So they might be in these two buckets. When we unpack the first bucket of fluid intelligence, what we find are a lot of things that skills that employers want to see when they hire our students, or graduate schools want to see when they admit students into furthering their education, tertiary education. So there's things like conscientiousness, openness, growth mindset, a sense of belonging, the ability to regulate our emotions, control ourselves, and make positive oriented decisions. So these were the areas that we were studying, the skill sets, and our team calls them interpersonal competencies. What we also know from this research is that it's very context and culture specific, meaning that if something is happening in the environment, it will influence students' ability to cultivate these skills, retain them, and apply them in a classroom setting or out of classroom setting. We had several questions that around what was happening pre-COVID, what was happening during COVID, and now living with COVID. Given the time limit, I'm going to just focus on how did there's research question 3, how did the association of these interpersonal competencies and GPA change before COVID and during COVID at the beginning and end of fall semester? And this would be the first time in college semester. So the interpersonal competencies we were looking at were a number of psychological well-being, and we measured those through the Rife scale. And I'll go over these later. We were also I'll go over what's relative to our findings later, but you have these slides to look back on if you want to learn more about each one of these instruments. And we also make these freely available to you. So I'll share that link as well at the end of the presentation. And we also have self-compassion and metacognitive awareness, the types of typical academic preparedness skills that we're wanting students to be able to know and do and demonstrate in order to demonstrate academic self-efficacy, and their level of perceived stress. Then there's the idea of the sense of belonging in the class, and as identified through perceived peer support in the classroom, classroom comfort, isolation in the classroom, and faculty support. So our study design was 2 groups, about 4,500 students each in a seminar, a first-year seminar course, and this course is designed to intentionally cultivate these particular interpersonal competencies. And we administered this intervention or these interpersonal competency tools at the beginning of the semester and end of the semester. We also used demographic variables such as age, gender, ethnicity as sort of proxies to culture. The data analysis model we used is Shiming Zhang's, and we started with the data, disaggregated, or actually did a supervised random forest, did some proximity matrix, and did some clustering. And then we ran regression analysis to see which of these clusters was most powerful and most different in predicting end of term GPA, cumulative graduate grade point average. This is an example of us meeting on Zoom, since it's a multi-institutional group that we meet on Zoom and discuss findings and next steps in analysis. So what we found here, this is just as students come in, what is most predictive of their end of term GPA. And you can see that before we've had an opportunity to educate students, lots of things are very, very predictive of their end of term GPA. And some of those are things that we would or have known about from previous research. For example, their incoming academic preparedness. The major that they choose to major in predicts their end of term GPA, which is very interesting. But what's also interesting is their level of psychological well-being or their level of belief that they could succeed in college. Also, which was of high importance here, was their sense of belonging in the classroom, and then other psychological well-being aspects. What we found at the end of this first term semester, which again was designed to specifically cultivate these interpersonal competencies so that they would in fact be less predictive. So what we were trying to do is mediate the predictability by giving students these skills to become more successful in college, is that they were in fact less predictive. So once we've invited students to focus on the building up of psychological well-being, the building up of their sense of belonging, the building up of their metacognitive awareness, these were less predictive of the end of term GPA. And what we saw was that more of the academic predictors then came into play. So what we were then most interested is disaggregating this data and finding out, well, who is not succeeding and how with regard to GPA, and how could we intervene in their experience to make sure they succeed in the second term of their academic career. So here, using clustering, you see that we got about three fairly distinct clusters. And in fact, these did give us also significantly end of term GPA. So when we see this, we start to see that cluster 3 now has a failing end of term GPA. So this is the group of students here that we are most interested in finding out who are these individuals and how do we better support them to bring back up their GPA at the end in the next term. So there were several limitations, but again, in interest of time, I want to focus that what can be concluded from this study is that COVID, I didn't show you, this was all of the pre and during, but when we compared this, there were significant differences in what did impact students. For example, perceived stress impacted students' psychological well-being much more heavily during COVID. And so we had to focus more interventions in that first year design course on psychological well-being, as well as cultivating sense of belonging, because in comparison, when we compared the incoming scores, they were significantly different.
Excuse me,
very
Professor
different.
Marily, you
Yes,
have
sir.
5 minutes more.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. And then by leveraging this data, it helped our institutions discover how we might be perpetuating more harm when we're trying to cultivate interpersonal competencies and understand what we need to repair and in as far as curriculum design. And it also served as a starting point. We're continuing to monitor students' progress as they continue in their academic careers along these lines of psychological well-being. Here are our references, and given the time, I want to invite you into our research team website, where you can find a lot more resources about the tools that we used, some first-person voice research that we're doing, and you can find that at https:// competencycultivation.uta.edu /. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those at marilee.ludwig@uta.edu. And again, our big shout out to our team and all the work that they do. And we also have written this methodology up in a book called Equity Driven High Achievement Assessment of Student Learning and Development. And if you want to learn more about how to put this into an institutional program review design, there's another book from Stylus Publishing, as well as more on the neuroscience of learning and development from Stylus Publishing. So that's it for me. Thank you so kindly for the opportunity to be with you. I'm very grateful to our hosts for providing me the opportunity to share.
Dr. Zulistiawati is currently an assistant professor at the Education Management Department, Faculty of Education, Gorontalo State University, Indonesia. She joined the department in 2012 after moving from Regional Civic Service and Educational Training Agency and District Officer. She received her Med and PhD both in Education, Leadership and Management from Flinders University, Australia. Her research areas are in leadership, especially in gender and research studies, and youth leadership for social studies, educational management and organizational design, especially in learning, agile organization and knowledge management. She has published her works in research publications, national and international journals, including the International Journal of Arts, Humanities and Social Sciences. Now, welcome, Dr. Zulistiawati. Now, I'm going to read Dr. Shahrun Ibrahim's bio. Dr. Muhammad Shahrun Ibrahim is currently an associate professor at the English department. In 2005, he received his Med Leadership and Management from Flinders University, Australia, and PhD from Monash University, Australia. His research interests are in areas of health, applied linguistics, classroom management, parents-school partnership, teacher and student well-being, school administration and policy, educational management and leadership. He has published his works in research publications in both national and international journals as either author or co-author, including the International Journal of Arts, Humanities and Social Sciences. Now, I would like both the presenters to start their presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Syed Aslam, for the time given. Good afternoon, everyone, or good night for the South Asian time. Tonight, we will present our paper, our research on student retention, entitled An Appreciative Inquiry to Explore Gorontalo Higher Education Students' Retention in Difficult Time, Challenge and Strategies. Before my partner continue the explanation for the key findings to this research, I will start by introducing the team first. I myself, Dr. Sulis, and my partner, Dr. Ibrahim. So before going into further explanation, discussion about this research, I would like to situating the setting first to introduce you about Gorontalo. Maybe most of you don't know where's the Gorontalo located. So Gorontalo is one of the youngest provinces in Indonesia, located in the east side of the Indonesian. It's located on Minahasa Peninsula, so it's close to Philippines. And Gorontalo was separated from the mother province from South Sulawesi in 2000 and become one of the youngest province in Indonesia. Also, Gorontalo is one of the developing provinces in Indonesia. So there's more difficulties, new challenges, whether in social, economic and education field. In education in Gorontalo, especially in higher education, the changing curriculums happened from early 40s until now. So there were 10 plus curriculums models that's already being changed by the time in Indonesian education system. And the current one is called Curriculum Merdeka Belajar. In early 2020, the Ministry of Education and Culture released Merdeka Belajar policy to innovate higher education learning in Indonesia. It aimed to bridge the gap between business, industry, and higher education, so that higher education institution can produce greater human resource, empower learner to earn competitive advantages. And of course, this policy must be followed by university, specifically at the faculty level. And then it's to be crucial as a reference for each study program or department, technically or conceptually for implementation of this curriculum. And then within this implementation of the curriculum, the adaptation of outcome-based education are now being adapted into this curriculum. However, there are two concepts that happen in OBE curriculum that's applied in this situation. One is the learning outcomes, and then another one is graduate learning outcomes. And then the implementation of this OBE university happened within the local and national level. Next, please, Dr. Ibrahim. So our research objective is to explore the challenges and the strategies that implemented in this situation where OBE is adapted into our current curriculum, and then how we support student, and then how to maintain retention in within two departments in one of the university in Gorontalo province. I'll transfer the explanation to Dr. Ibrahim. Please, Dr. Ibrahim, please continue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Sulistiawati. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you all over the world. And right now in our hometown in Gorontalo, Indonesia is 11:50 p.m. So it's almost Sunday here in Gorontalo. So it's really nice and it's a privilege for us to present our research on this a virtual global summit regarding to OBE, outcome-based education. So that's why in regard to our topic today, so it will be in the combination between what actually happened since the COVID-19 and also in relation to OBE. So actually, this research was actually get the idea not only because of COVID, because the issue that we have within our research is about the retentions and also the in regard to challenges and also strategies that also faced by the students, but not only the students, but also with the university, because in some cases that there are some kind of there are some lots of number of students that didn't finish their study with all of kind of reasons behind. In order, another condition that also faced by the students getting worse due to COVID pandemic. So therefore, in our research, we also elaborate about the difficult time in regard to COVID-19. So how these students could be empowered in order to maintain their retentions, in order to be able to finish their study as well as to gain the learning objective. So based on the research that we have completed, so there were some challenges that were faced by the students. So the first one mostly also happened globally, that they experiencing financial hardship due to COVID-19 because their parents also get some problems regarding to their work and also job. So they have been not fired, but due to their condition, they need to limit the numbers of the staff. So therefore, this situation also happened to the parents in students in university. So this kind of problems also caused some other issue in regard to financial hardship. And then the other issue that not only caused by COVID, it's also happened before COVID. So it's about the having imbalanced academic and non-academic activities where the students could not really manage well about their activity, both in academic and non-academic. So therefore, this situation also influence the levels of their retentions in finishing their study. And then the third one is about the choosing wrong degree subject. So this is can be, there are so many reasons behind this one, because one of the causes is that the system that we have here in Indonesia, because, for example, the students want to enroll in university, usually they have 2 or 3 choices. So once their score or their mark is not really enough to be enrolled in the first choices, so they will be put or they will be sent to the second choices. So in that cases, the students, based on our research, claim that actually we didn't like to study in this department.
Dr.
However,
Ibrahim,
there is no choice us. So
Dr.
therefore,
Ibrahim,
yes.
you have 5
5
minutes more,
minutes
sir.
left, right? Oh,
Okay,
thank
sir.
you very much for reminding me this one. So another findings that we have besides
Yeah.
the strategies, so it will be how the university could empower students retention. So the strategies regarding to the financial hardship, so the policy that being provided by the university is that by providing tuition fee reduction, or they can pay it in installment mode. And then the second one could be in regard to the academic, non-academic life of the students. So it also suggested that the department, also the university, need to maximize the role of the academic advisors, as well as activating the consulting kind of the psychological counseling due to their problems, that will able to seek any solution for empowering their retention. And then in regard to the choosing wrong department, so by the current policy by the educational ministry, now we have the interdepartment transfer, where another choice also will be the enabling the students to enroll in different studies department, even in university, in order to bridge their missing department, or when they are not able to enroll in the first, now they can have it at least for some semesters in those proposed department. And then another one that will be also good for them is that mediating project-based learning. And then the last will be creating opportunities for active learning, and also open for the extensive working experiences in business and industries. So therefore, once they finish their study, they can at least have some experiences regarding to business and industries, either making or having their own business or industry or small home industry, or at least the that's all almost here in so thank you very much for your participation in international virtual summit. So thank you very much for the chance given to us. So I will be welcome for any question and comment regarding to our research. Thank you very much, Professor Said Aslan.